Hi, and welcome back to the Elsie version. Today we're in 1 Corinthians 8. The last chapter was about when you remain single, you don't have conflicted desires. And then it also was about live as you're called and the principles for marriage. So that's all of that. In the last two verses of chapter 7 are as such. A wife is bound to her husband as long as he lives, but if her husband dies, she is free to be married to whom she wishes, only in the Lord. Yet in my judgment, she is happier if she remains as she is, and I think I too have the Spirit of God. Now concerning food offered to idols, we know that all of us possess knowledge. This knowledge puffs up, but love builds up. If anyone imagines that he knows something, he does not yet know as he ought to know. But if anyone loves God, he is known by God. Therefore, as to the eating of food offered to idols, we know that an idol has no real existence, and that there is no God but one. For although there may be so-called gods in heaven or on earth, as indeed there are many gods and many lords, yet for us there is one God, the Father, from whom all things and for whom we exist, whom are all things and for whom we exist, and one Lord, Jesus Christ, through whom are all things and through whom we exist. So, to some extent, let's see here. The gods and the lords he's talking about are demons and also like vices and idolatry that we commit, right? So he's talking also about the knowledge. So he says we have knowledge. We know that idols are not of real existence. But as we continue on, verse 7, however, not all possess this knowledge, but some through former association with idols eat food as really offered to an idol, and their conscience, being weak, is defiled. So this is why he says knowledge puffs up, because it makes you prideful and it makes you think, oh, well, I know better, so I'm just going to do it. Verse 18, food will not commend us to God. We are no worse off if we do not eat, and no better off if we do. But take care that this right of yours does not somehow become a stumbling block to the weak. So this gets back to when Paul says we can do all things, but not all things are helpful. Sometimes not all things are helpful to others, right? Because if we are going about saying, oh, well, I can do this, it's not always helpful. Anyway, verse 9, but take care that this right of yours does not somehow become a stumbling block to the weak. For if anyone sees you who have knowledge eating in an idol's temple, will he not be encouraged? Will he not be encouraged if his conscience is weak to eat food offered to idols? Now, I would have to look into the context of all of these, because to some extent, there's a cultural understanding that we don't have, right? Eating food to idols, being in the idol's temple, like, I don't know exactly what that means. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of tired. So it's difficult to brainstorm this. But if I had to guess, some people might think that the eating would give them supernatural powers or something, like, or it was sacred food or something, and could only be eaten by a priest, or you had to be a god yourself. Like, there's so many options for this. And so maybe in our knowledge of being prideful, like, well, I can eat it. It's food. Food is food. Somebody eats it, but others are watching and are like, oh, well, you know, this food that we gave to the idol is blessed by it and it will give you supernatural power. And now you can walk through fire. So I'm going to eat it too. And then I'm going to go walk through fire. Like, I don't know, but it could be something like that. Anyway, verse 11. And so by your knowledge, this weak person is destroyed, the brother for whom Christ died. This feels like a big word problem tonight. Verse 12. Thus sinning against your brothers and wounding their conscience when it is weak, you sin against Christ. Therefore, if food makes my brother stumble, I will never eat meat, lest I make my brother stumble. I do think to some extent this gets back to Romans 14, right? Like everything Paul was talking about there. It's not causing somebody to stumble based off of legalism necessarily, but more, I guess, you know, if they have a sin pattern and you're feeding it or something. Because Paul stood up to legalism left and right. So he would not be writing about legalism. He would not be condoning it. And that's why we say the Bible never contradicts itself. So if you ever feel like Paul has two sides, you are interpreting one of those sides incorrectly. Anyway. And then it gets into verse 9, which is important for this. I'm just going to read the first thing. He says, am I not free? And the title of that, which I don't really care for the titles, but it's helpful. It says, Paul surrenders his rights. And so we'll get into that tomorrow. But I guess the question today is, what knowledge puffs you up? Yeah, that's what I got for you. And I'll see you tomorrow.